Warning, this episode contains strong language or mature themes. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to This Podcast is Uncalled For.
Well, the name of this podcast is Stuff Uncalled For?
This podcast is uncalled for.
Podcast, all right. Well,
what's uncalled for about it?
What we doing in Tijuana?
And he's like, what did you just say?
It's a bit of a slap in the face and an insult.
And then look, thank you back home.
Oh, that's going to be great for the football chart.
Yeah, it's kind of, what is that character from Guardians of the Galaxy who takes everything literally?
Because it always happens. It always happens.
That is uncalled for, Michael.
And now, your host for this podcast, Mike Chernevsky.
Welcome to the podcast. Very special Snowed In edition. I recognize this is going to be released in summer 2022, but we're recording it in January 2022, and I'm snowed in. So in past seasons, we've done political tests. We've done the 8 values and the 9 axis. There's yet another political test that we can take by the same group of folks. This is the 6 triangles. Not to be confused with the triangles that Cartman found and Barbara Streisand wanted. No. The 6 triangles is a political alignment quiz that attempts to place your beliefs in 6 triangles. Many quizzes use 2D scales where you are, for example, democratic or authoritarian. However, some people may believe that the government should have little say in their lives, whether democratic or authoritarian, and thus they may vote no to both democratic and authoritarian questions. This quiz attempts to resolve that by measuring the combination of 3 attributes. While this isn't perfect, it aims to be able to give a better method of comparison than most quizzes. What are the triangles? Economics, control, regulation, markets. Personal freedom, freedom, security, truth. Culture, tradition, progress, freedom. Equality, opportunity, outcome, burden. Government, democracy, authority. Minarchy, M-I-N-A-R-C-H-Y. And foreign policy, imperialism, isolationism, globalism. Gives us 2 options, a short quiz and a long quiz. For the purposes of the podcast, we will do the short quiz, which is 72 questions long. So, here we go. Question 1. Military spending is a waste of money. I'm going to say neutral on this one because government spending is necessary, but the way the United States funds the government, where that more than the next 11 countries combined, something's out of whack there. Capitalism should fundamentally be replaced. I'm going to agree. Capitalism should be augmented with some form of socialism, which puts me very firmly in the social democrat category, along with, say, Bernie. You should not have the right to make claims which are probably false. Agree. It is important for a government to maintain a strong military so that it can have global influence. This is what I was just talked about with we spend way too much in this country in military, so I'm going to disagree. The United Nations should be more powerful. Agree. People should question the actions of those in power. Strongly agree. Case in point, a second house is being built in that fields that was talking about, and the street hasn't been plowed. Fuck you very much, Mr. Healy. We should have a national religion. Strongly disagree. The government should require people to eat healthy. I'm going to say neutral, even though part of what put me in the hospital fairly recently is I haven't been eating as healthy as I should have. Abortion should always be legal. Agree. Again, none of my business what happens there. Social media should be responsible for fact-checking advertisements that they host. Agree. And you're using their platform, so they should do the responsible thing. The government would be best if the people directly voted on most issues. Neutral. Kind of goes against the idea of having a republic form of government, but that's where you being able to talk with your members of Congress or states and local officials should come in handy, but unfortunately doesn't most of the time. We continue. People should be able to volunteer for experimental treatments when they have no treatment, and would die if they do not. I'm going to agree with this. Full disclosure, during this whole pandemic thing, I tried to get on clinical trials for some of those vaccines that have come out. Was unfortunately not accepted for any such trial, but the point remains that I at least tried. So on question 13 now, just in case you're keeping count. The government occasionally needs to do things which aren't popular for the good of its people. Neutral. Everything that can be left to the free market should be. Strongly disagree. Because without proper government oversight, there can be no free market. Each person should have an identically weighted vote. Agree? It's important for national security that some materials are classified. Neutral. Marijuana should be legal to the adult population. I'm talking to you, Topeka. Strongly agree. Government regulations rarely completely solve the problem they intend to fix. Neutral. Capitalism is better than any existing alternative. Disagree. I point to, we as progressives always point to Scandinavia, the Nordic countries, as an example of a mix of socialism and capitalism actually working. So, I do not trust the government to look after my interests. I'm going to say neutral. The media is biased against traditional values. I'm going to strongly disagree with that, and I'm sick of hearing, liberal media bias. It's bullshit. All right, always has been, always will be, and I'm sick of hearing it. And I've worked in media, so I know what the hell I'm talking about. Question 22. Plastic straws should be banned. I'm going to say neutral. There can never be a government without corruption. Neutral. Just get money out of politics. Whistleblowers who leak classified information that costs lives should be prosecuted. Neutral. There's a reason they're called whistleblowers. Those who take credit for the work of others should lose everything. Neutral. Although it is a good idea to credit people, and we try to do that here on the podcast with our music and our guests and everything. And for everyone listening, yeah, it's probably a good idea to do so. In fact, in film and TV, you kind of have to. So, the government should not prosecute people for expressing an opinion. I'm going to strongly agree with that. That is our First Amendment right there. Parents should be allowed to help their children succeed. I'm going to strongly agree with that one. There should be no legal repercussions for using extremely offensive language, as in George Carlin's Some Words You Can Never Say on Television, a couple of which I've already said on today's episode of the podcast, so I'm going to strongly agree with that. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the 7 words, they are shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Credit. And going back to credit where credit's due, credits to the late George Carlin for putting that list together. Question 29 now. Our nation should never initiate a war. I am going to agree on that. I thought that was a mistake when Bush did it, and should never have happened, as far as I'm concerned. But that's history, so we move on. The market will always make the best product unless the government intervenes. I'm going to strongly disagree with that. You'd be surprised how much shoddy workmanship goes into a lot of the stuff we buy. The world would be better off if countries diplomatically united into a single world government. I'm going to disagree on this, as the UN is a good institution. It could be a little stronger, but to replace hundreds of countries with one single government, I don't think that's going to work that well. Any deals that another country wants must be bad for us. I'm going to strongly disagree with that one. That's what negotiations and treaties are for. Customer protection laws to ensure products are safe are important to them. I'm going to strongly agree with that one. Those who disagree with the government should be removed from the country. I'm going to disagree. Again, we have our First Amendment rights in the United States to say whatever we want without fear of repercussions from the government. Banks should tolerate more risk for disadvantaged communities to give them the opportunity to succeed as well. I'm going to agree with this. 36, so we're halfway there. Regulation cannot fix all problems in the economy. Disagree. In fact, I would argue that deregulation has probably cause more harm than good. All drugs should be illegal for the adult population. Neutral. You should be able to become rich if you work harder than everyone else, regardless of how wealthy your family was. Agree. I'm not going to say strongly agree. I'm just going to say agree. Let's be honest. That's one of our biggest problems here in America is too few people having way too much money. Looking at you, Stan. Democracy often allows the majority to infringe on the rights of those who dissent. I'm going to say neutral because, again, First Amendment rights. I might not agree with some decisions made in government, but I recognize I might be in the minority. So, where are we at? Question 40. Companies that sneakily break regulations and are caught should be disbanded. I'm going to strongly agree with that one. People would be better off without government. I'm going to strongly disagree with this one. People should have the power to choose their leaders. I'm going to strongly agree. That is how democracy works, and particularly democratic republic. That's how it should work. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. The old communist mantra. Neutral. There is some truth to it, but I don't know. I support regional unions such as the European Union. I can't talk today. I support regional unions such as the European Union. Neutral. I'm going to stay at that with a 20-foot pole. Or I'm not going to touch that with a 20-foot pole. It's a waste of our soldiers and resources to topple over other governments regardless of what they do. Strongly agree. It is unfair that the wealthy pay for tutoring for their children to pass standardized tests, allowing them to further succeed. Strongly agree. The government should not support any religion or a lack of religion. Strongly agree. Once again, First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, which is also freedom from religion. And yes, we do have a separation of church and state in this country. If you disagree with that, you have a right to disagree with that, but you're wrong. If given the chance, I would implement my ideology in my country, even if most people were against it. Neutral. Private schools should be banned. Disagree because some of my chess club employments is with private schools. So I'd be going against my own self-interest if I were to say I agree with that. Question 50. There should be a limit to how many children a person may have to prevent overcrowding the earth. I want to say neutral, and doesn't quite apply to me because I have no kids, which is kind of a hard thing to have if you've never been late. Foreign leaders who oppose our interests should be toppled. Strongly disagree with that one. My nation should focus primarily on domestic policy. I'm going to strongly agree with that one. The government is larger than it needs to be. Disagree. Simply because the United States is such a large country, you need a large government to effectively run everything. Nations should cooperate with each other unless there's a compelling reason not to. Strongly agree, for the good of the planet. The wealthy have far more than they need. Didn't I just say that a few minutes ago? Strongly agree. There should be no billionaires. Strongly agree. Stan, pay up. And while you're at it, reimburse those people you evicted from the Wagner Ranch. Question 75. You should not have complete freedom of speech. I'm going to say neutral because there are some things that you just cannot say. You know, Next question. Climate change is a real threat. I'm going to strongly agree with this. Smoking should be illegal. Neutral. I personally don't smoke. But if you are a person who does smoke, have at it. Do you. Question 60. People who spread misinformation should be punished. I'm going to strongly agree. I'm looking at you, Fox News. I'm looking at you, Alex Jones. Now, I expect you to do a shirtless rant against me for saying that, but go ahead, have at it. You fucking liar. And that's just you. Public utilities like roads and electricity should all be publicly owned. I'm going to strongly agree with that. For those who were involved in the teabag movement, if you don't like paying taxes, stop driving, because your tax dollars pay for that. The government should monitor all citizens to combat terrorism. I'm going to strongly disagree on that one. Society should not function. Society could not function without leaders and followers. Neutral. Your income should be directly tied to the value of what you produce. Strongly agree. As I say time and again, I don't get paid anything for this podcast. Would I like to be paid? Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's up to you. Remember, I got the Cafe Press shop now. If you feel I've done a good job, you can give me money through that, and you get cool shirts or whatever out of it. So, cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Question 65. Some industries, such as the Postal Service, should be government run. Agree. In fact, I would argue the biggest problem with things like that is profit motive. And going back to Bush for a second, that's a provision, that poison pill they put on the U.S. Postal Service. Can we just get rid of that, please? Because that's slowly but surely destroying what's probably the most effective and the most direct representation of government's inaction is getting your mail, and I know people don't like to say this, but even UPS and FedEx depend on the Postal Service to get their packages to more remote places. So, question 66. Whistleblowers should be strongly protected. Agree. There should be no welfare. Not only disagree, I'm going to strongly disagree with that one. All people should be guaranteed housing. Strongly agree. It's alarming to me that people are even homeless in 21st century America. That's ridiculous. Constant war is needed to make an economy thrive. I'm going to strongly disagree with that one. The media should report facts even when the media disagrees with the implications of them. Agree. That's kind of what media is supposed to be for. Excessive government intervention hurts the economy. Strongly disagree. And government-owned industry is usually a bad idea. Again, strongly disagree. So that is everything. And here are my results. So, economics, fanatic, anti-markets. 52.2% control, 47.8% regulation, 0% markets. Personal freedom, anti-security. 44% freedom, 12% security, 44% truth. Culture, fanatic, anti-tradition. Tradition, 0%. Progress, 44.4%. Freedom, 55.6%. Equality, centrist. Opportunity, 37%. 37! Outcome, 44.4%. Burden, 18.6%. Government, democracy. Democracy, 56.3%. Authority, 25%. Minarchy, 18.7%. And foreign policy, anti-imperialism. Imperialism, 56%. Isolationism, imperialism, 5.6%. Isolationism, 50%. Globalism, 44%. Do feel free to take this quiz for yourself. And just have some fun with it. Everything along with those other quizzes we have already done on the podcast. So with all that said, have a great day, and by the time you're hearing this, have a great day outside in the nice weather, while past me here freezes his ass off. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just here at home staying warm while it's freezing outside. So take it easy, and we'll talk to you next time.
This podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced and edited by Mike Chernevsky. Opening music is Cool Hard Facts by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The outro music for this episode is Hinotori by Pistol Jazz, licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting platform. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/uncalledforpodcast, and check out our blog with show notes at uncalledfor.home.blog. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.